We're told that the water flows out a small hole at the bottom, and you're told the rate at which the water flows out is modelled by dv by dt is equal to minus 2h. Now, it gives you the information here in the question. Sometimes you have to come up with this equation in the exam yourself, but here they've actually told you what it is. This word here, rate, just means this differential equation, and because it is flowing out, it is a negative here because of its flowing out. Now, V is the volume of this cone here, and we've got the water remaining of a depth of h, and the time is t seconds when the water begins to flow out. Now you've got to determine, which means work out, the time taken for the tank to become empty. So you've got to work out the time when this tank has gone from being full all the way down to the bottom when the height is equal to 0. So initially t is 0 and h is 50, and you've got to work out the time when h is 0. You were told the equation of the cone, which is V is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h, and you should know that equation from your GCSE maths anyway, but they give it to you just in case you've forgotten. The question is worth 7 marks in the exam, so it's really important you show all your working out as you go along. Now, your key facts to help you answer this question. You're going to be looking at this diagram. Even though it's a 3D diagram, you need to create yourself a right angle triangle. So if you draw a little triangle across here and create a little right angle triangle here, that will help you work out the relationship between your radius and your height, because you've got an equation here in terms of r and h, and you're going to need to eliminate one of these variables so they're all in terms of the same letter. This word here, rate, means you've got a differential, so in this case here, dv by dt. You're going to need to be using the chain rule. So you're going to look at a function and you've got to use the chain rule to work out how you can link dv by dt in relation to the other letters in the question. And then you're going to have to separate the variables by putting the y terms on the left, or in this case will be a different letter. The x terms on the right, again, is going to be a different letter to terms of x and y. And then you need to put integral signs in front of both sides. And then you're going to integrate. These are all the steps you need to be able to answer this question. Let's pause, have a go at working out the answer, and then press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Fantastic work. Hopefully you've managed to come up with an answer, and we're going to check, see if you are correct. So, to start with, we're going to look at the chain rule. Now, the chain rule says that dv by dt is equal to dv by dh times dh by dt. Now, these letters are interchangeable, but the reason we're using dv by dt is because in the question over here, it tells us we've got dv by dt. So I'm just going to use the dv by dt and split it up so the dv stays at the top, the t goes into the bottom right here, and the other letter we're going to be dealing with is going to be h, because you can see on this right hand side I've got a h in here, minus 2h. So all my expressions need to be in terms of h. So this is the chain rule. So I now need to come up with an equation connecting my radius and my height, because I can create a right angle triangle here. So I've got the height here of h, and I've got a radius here of r, and I need to be able to create an equation here in terms of just h, so that when I differentiate it to find dv by dh, it is all in terms of h. I don't want any r's in the expression. So to know what this radius is in relation to h, we need to use right-angled trigonometry. So I've got a right-angle triangle here where r is the opposite, the adjacent is h, and the angle is 30. So we're going to be using tan of the angle. So tan of 30 is equal to the opposite divided by the adjacent. So my r is going to be h times by tan 30, where tan 30 is equal to √3, and this will give you 1 mark in the exam. From here, I need to substitute this into v is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. So this formula is given to you in the exam. We now know r is the same as h over root 3, and h will just remain the same. So I can write v is equal to 1/3 of pi h over root 3 all squared times by h. Now h squared divided times by h is going to give me h cubed. Root 3 squared is going to be 3, times by 3 is going to give me 9. So my volume is 1/9 pi h cubed. But we actually need to find dv by dh. So I've just got v in terms of h. Now I've got v in terms of h, I can work out dv by dh by differentiating this expression. So 1/9 of pi are just constants, so the only thing I need to differentiate is h cubed. The differential of h cubed is 3h squared. So I've got 3 times 1/9, which cancels down to 1/3. So dv by dh is 1/3 pi h squared, which gives you your second mark. From here, I could substitute in my dv by dt, which is the minus 2h. And I could substitute in my dv by dh, which is 1/3 pi h squared. This will give you your third mark in the exam. So it's really clear to make sure that you've said where you're using the chain rule and how you are substituting in. And once we've got this chain rule, we can now see we've got an expression entirely in terms of h. And we're going to have to work out the value of t. So you can see here I've got an equation only involving dh and dt. So when you've got an expression like this, you should be thinking separating the variables. And this means I need to put all the y terms on the left. Now in this case here, the y terms are going to be the dt terms. So anything in terms of t goes onto the left hand side. And then it says put the x terms on the right. In this case here, all the h terms are going to be the x terms, and they're going to stay on the right. So anything in terms of h goes on the right, anything in terms of t goes on the left. Then we need to put an integral sign in front of both sides. We're then going to integrate. We're going to be putting in the limits that we were told earlier, but when the height is equal to 50, the time was 0, then you can work out your constant, and then you can have a go at finding the time when h is equal to 0. If you struggled so far, have a go from here, see if you can carry on the equation till the end, okay, because this bit here using the chain rule is tricky. Also separating the variables is also a tricky skill as well, so see if you can separate the variables before I show you how to do it, and make sure you have a go at following through these steps. Well done if you've managed to do so far. Now the expression we just had was minus 2h is equal to 1/3 pi h squared times by dh by dt. So we're going to put all the dt terms on the left, or dt terms on the left, and the h's on the right. Now because we've got a fraction in here, it's nice to get rid of this fraction, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So negative 2 times by 3 gives me negative 6. The dt is going to come up to the left hand side. I'm going to divide both sides by h to get rid of the h on the left hand side. So h squared divided by h is just going to be h. So I'm left with minus 6 dt is equal to pi times by h dh. From here, I now need to put integral signs in. Now the integral sign comes at the beginning, but if you have got a constant, you could take the constant out the front of the integral sign, and this will give you 1 mark for getting to this stage here. We could have taken negative 6 out the front of here and then put 1 dt in here if you prefer. It doesn't matter which way round you write this. We now need to integrate. So the integral of minus 6 is going to be negative 6t, and the integral of h is h squared over 2 multiplied by the pi, just gives you pi h squared over 2, and remember to add on your constant at the end plus c. Now we've got these values here, this equation, I need to work out the constant on the end. So the constant on the end, we were told initially the tank is full. So that means when t is equal to 0, h is going to equal 50, as we discussed earlier. So substituting these values in, instead of writing t, I can write 0. Instead of writing h, I can write 50. So the left-hand side is just 0. On your calculator, you can work out 50 squared divided by 2, and that will give you minus 1,250 pi for your next mark. From here, we can substitute this back into the equation. So I've got minus 6t is equal to pi h squared over 2 minus 1,250. The question wants to find the time. So we've got to find the time when it becomes empty. So that means h is equal to 0. So we've got to find t when h is 0. So I'm just going to substitute 0 into this expression here. So this whole term here on the left becomes 0. I've then got minus 6 lots of t. So to get t on its own, I'm going to divide by minus 6. So I've got to divide my minus 1,250 pi by negative 6. The two negatives become positive. And if you cancel that fraction down, for your last mark, you will get 625 pi over 3. The answer is given in exact form, so make sure you write your answer in exact form. If you're unsure, you can write an exact form and then put the decimal by the side. Normally in pure maths, you leave your answer in exact form, so the examiner knows that you haven't just typed things in on the calculator to get the answer, you have shown all your working out. This was worth 7 marks, so it's quite a meaty question. There's a lot of parts to it. You can see where the 4 marks are, the last 4 marks were awarded on this question, on this second part of the page, but getting started was the tricky part. So give yourself a big thumbs up and a big tick if you got this correct. It's a tricky question, so well done if you managed to do it. The mark scheme on this question shows the method marks. So B1 and M1s are method marks. A1s are answer marks. You must get down to this answer. OE means all equivalent. So if you wrote something equivalent to this, then you can still get the marks. Now, the way I did it, I didn't use the notation integrating between 50 and 0, putting limits in. I just worked it out using plus C, then put in the limits, and then worked it out separately. If you did it the way I did it, I find that much easier to work with. And it still gives you the same amount of marks. It's personal preference as to which way round you like to do it, whether you prefer to put the limits in straight away or just work it out as it makes sense and work out your constant and then go back in and substitute in. T is to find t and h is equal to 0. If you found this video useful, please share, like and subscribe so we can all get great at maths.